You're watching India Global. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. The next 30 minutes, we get you all the big stories from around the world that impact India. But first up, as always, we start with the headlines. US President Donald Trump confirms talks with Iran, says Washington and Tehran officials are expected to meet soon with a possible sanctions waiver on the anvil. Is there now possibility of Iranian nuclear program being brought under the official international guideline? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu backs Donald Trump's vision for redeveloping Gaza. Is the world, is the Middle East, and most importantly, are the people of Gaza prepared for a French Riviera-style makeover? Is it Liberation Day 2.0 as Donald Trump slaps new tariffs on 14 countries, even as India and US inch closer to making a potential trade deal? Over 4,000 Myanmaris take refuge in India's Mizoram, influx over 3 days after clashes in Myanmar's Chin state. Viewers, the top story on the show on India Global today. In a major development, US President Donald Trump has said the US and Iranian officials are expected to meet soon, signaling a return to diplomacy following the recent American airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities and Tehran's retaliatory attacks. Donald Trump has expressed hope that further military action will in fact not be necessary, pointing to a potential and a possible de-escalation in terms of tensions. While he didn't specify a date, his Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, let's cut across to camera number 2 now. Steve Witkoff said that talks could begin within the next week. The announcement comes just weeks after America, in coordination with Israel, launched those precision strikes on Iranian nuclear sites in Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan in a bid to cripple Tehran's alleged nuclear program. Donald Trump also said he's willing to consider easing sanctions on Iran at the right time, saying he wants to give Tehran a chance to rebuild peacefully rather than continue fueling anti-American, anti-Israel rhetoric. Now, what's going to be the future like of this entire region? We're going to put that out, and that's a big story. But first up, I want to play out that soundbite of Donald Trump when he spoke about what he thinks are potential possibilities with regard to Iran.
We have scheduled Iran talks, and they want to talk. They took a big drubbing. I think when we hit the 3 sites, really, I would say the 3 sites, not just the one. The one was a big one, and it was deep in granite, and it was obliterated.
The big questions that we are putting, in fact, on this story. First up, how soon can a diplomatic breakthrough be achieved? As far as these talks are concerned, there is a potential of some sort of a reprieve, but is that really possible? Second big question, what happens to the nuclear program that Iran has? It is something that there have been conflicting reports as far as whether or not the Iranian nuclear program has been quote-unquote obliterated. If not, if it's still valid, there are some reports indicating that maybe 2 years is the kind of setback. If so, then what can be the potential impact on the Iranian nuclear program? What happens to it? Third important point, will this lead to sanctions relief? There's been a lot of talk about it. The commodities market has also responded to it as well. In fact, there's been a rally in the commodities market as well. And lastly, what is exactly the big game plan that the Middle East, for the Middle East region as far as Donald Trump is concerned? Let's get in Brahma Chilani to answer some of those. Dr. Chilani, as always, a pleasure to have you on the show. Some of the points that we've put out in terms of what lies ahead, help us understand what really, there's a lot at stake, but in your assessment, do you think this much of ground can be covered when the American and Iranian officials meet?
Let's be clear, Gauri, as to what the Americans are demanding. They're demanding that Iran entirely give up its enrichment program, but under the NPT, to which Iran is a signatory, a non-nuclear state can legitimately pursue an enrichment program, and the 3 nuclear sites that US bombed were all under international safeguards. In other words, they were open to inspections by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Despite that, the Americans carried out these strikes on these three facilities, undermining the international regime that seeks to prevent nuclear proliferation. Now, if the Iranian regime were to accept what Trump administration is demanding, it would amount to capitulation and it would make the Iranians' position at home untenable. The Iranian regime will not be able to survive if it were to accede to the American demands. The fact is that after having been bombed, Iran will seek to play for time. It will seek to use its hidden stockpile of enriched uranium in ways that would keep the world guessing. In fact, Iran now has strong motivation to go the North Korean route. In 2003, North Korea left the NPT, terminated all IAEA inspections of its program, and then after a while, it exploded a nuclear weapons device.
So what you're saying is these are delaying tactics, these are time-buying tactics on Iran's side. And do you think that the Trump administration is not able to see through it, or do you think there's more to it than what meets the eye?
Well, Trump lives in a fantasy world of his own. He thinks that having bombed Iran, that Iran will have no option but to capitulate to American demands. The Iranians have a record of being good diplomats. They have been quite skilled in diplomacy. And we've seen that over many years that they have taken the US on a winding route without giving up their nuclear program. And I think they will continue to seek to buy time. Trump, of course, is a man in a hurry. There is no way any kind of deal can be stitched together in a short period of time.
Let me then ask you this question, Dr. Jilani. In terms of sanctions relief, it's been put on the table. Do you think that that's a carrot, or do you think that's a real possibility right now? Because it impacts the world. It impacts India as well. We've been buying a lot of oil from Iran till those sanctions came into place. Of course, now a third comes from Russia. But the larger point is that sanctions relief a possibility on the table?
Well, if the sanctions were to be eased in any manner, Trump is not going to ease sanctions on Iranian oil because the beneficiaries will be China and India. He will, if a deal were to be clinched, and that is a big if, I doubt whether a deal would be clinched that would satisfy the Americans. But if that were to happen, if a deal were to be clinched, the sanctions relief will be in other areas. Financial sanctions, for example, could be eased. But on the oil front, because the US is seeking to enlarge its own exports, it's seeking a bigger share of the global oil market. It's seeking to, in fact, expand its oil exports to India. So the last thing that the US would do in a hypothetical situation where a deal is clinched is to ease sanctions on Iranian oil.
All right, I'm going to leave it there. Dr. Brahmachinani joining us live on what could be the potential as far as the US-Iran talks are concerned. All right, viewers, shifting focus now to more stories coming in from the Middle East. In fact, it's related to what we just discussed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has backed a proposal by Donald Trump to relocate Palestinians from Gaza and turn the war-ravaged coastal enclave into a luxury waterfront development, a plan that has drawn huge amounts of condemnation from the world and could further complicate rather than solving the fragile ceasefire talks between Israel and Hamas. Netanyahu said Israel was working very closely with the US to identify countries that would be willing to accept displaced Palestinians from Gaza and suggested that discussions with several nations were already getting close to fruition. Trump claims the US has had great cooperation from countries surrounding Israel, saying that something good will happen. Netanyahu's comments marked the most explicit endorsement yet of a controversial idea Trump first floated earlier this year. And let's play out, if we have that video, we should just play that out as well, because this was actually put out on the official social media handle of the president of US, and that's what he has in mind, and which is why there's been so much of condemnation that's coming from around the world. He wants to call it the Riviera of the Middle East. Trump's proposal was met with quick backlash from the US allies, the Arab leaders, human rights organizations, who said it amounted to ethnic cleansing under the guise of economic development. All right, shifting focus now to major stories that are coming in from Myanmar, where heavy gunfire in the Chin State area has triggered one of the largest cross-border displacements this year. Over 4,000 civilians have crossed into Mizoram's Zohathar village in just 3 days. 5 Indian homes and 1 vehicle struck by stray bullets. A man from Saigon has drowned attempting to return mid-conflict. Meanwhile, Assam Rifles have sealed this border gate. Community groups, including the Young Mizo Association, are coordinating food, medical help, but resources are stretched. What really complicates this border crisis is China's multi-layered role in this entire conflict. They're supplying the junta with advanced weaponry. Beijing also maintains contact and at times, in fact, is also helping these ethnic armed groups. And there are around 26,000 of them in this entire region. In fact, between February 2021 and December 2022, Chinese companies actually sold ammunition to a large extent. Now, how does this impact India? That's the bigger story here. You know, that there have been people impacted, there is communities that are impacted, but how does this impact India? There is direct impact in terms of India's strategic corridor, India's strategic calculus, given the fact that this could have both humanitarian as well as security complications for India. Now, of course, there are this large presence of China in this region, whether it is in terms of BRI investments, which are mining rights and multiple ethnic regions. But beyond that, there is also the fact that that this will complicate the situation as far as India's security calculus is concerned, and could mean that more effort and more focus will have to be given particularly to China, to India's Chicken Neck region. Turning attention now to the other story. Liberation Day 2.0, Trump has just slapped new tariffs on 14 countries with some as high as 40%. There are Myanmar, Laos, Bangladesh, all of them. And let's put out, if we have those numbers, let's put that out for our viewers to see what is the kind of tariff hikes that they're all staring at. 40% for Myanmar and Laos. Others like Japan, South Korea, Indonesia are all in that list. They were all part of what Trump calls a plan to fix unfair trade deals, protect US jobs. Trump sent letters to major trading partners, including Japan and South Korea, dictating new blanket tariffs. Now, what are we really looking at here? I'm going to play out that soundbite of Donald Trump in just a bit, but viewers, I want to explain to you what it means in terms of the reason why these tariffs are so significant is that it impacts the Indo-Pacific alliance network that America has. Now, if you have a Vietnam or a Laos, or you have Indonesia or any of the or Philippines or any of these large countries, 14 of them, looking at such high tariff levels, they're unlikely to be part of the traditional American alliance network anymore going forward. And if that gets stretched further, that allows the possibility of China coming into it, because the Indo-Pacific model that US has right now is already being tested with enough and more presence of China, both in terms of deep strategic interests and also large amount of investments. In the backdrop of that, these Liberation Day 2.0 tariffs are going to stretch the American arc of strategic calculus in the Indo-Pacific even more. Let's play out Donald Trump on that.
Are the tariff letters that you sent today final offers, or are they negotiable?
Well, that's final offer.
So South Korea, Japan should take it or
We're
leave
always
it?
subject to negotiate something that's fair, but we've talked to most of the countries, and pretty much they've had their way for many, many decades, as you know. and it was time that we just wanted fairness. This is not really equitable from our standpoint because it's just a small token by comparison to the damage that's been done over the years. But we had no other president that was willing to do this. I did it in my first term with China and others. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars of tariffs. No inflation, the most successful period of time that we've ever had financially in the country. The first term. I think this term is going to be much better, even much better than that. That was the best ever, and this is going to be, I think, substantially better. And we're on the way to doing that.
Now, while Donald Trump slapped tariffs on 14 countries, he said Washington was close to making a trade deal with India. Now, trade negotiators from Washington and New Delhi have been really pushing to finalize a trade deal for some time now, reduce the tariffs for some time, but disagreements have been there, whether it is in terms of dairy, whether it is in terms of agriculture, or also the fact that a lot of Indian negotiators, most of them feel that there's not commensurate give and take that's happening, which is why the process is being delayed. The last couple of days, India has been very clear when Commerce Minister made a very clear announcement saying that Indian interests need to be protected. A deal will happen. There is 9th of July. That's an important time. Before that, deal has progressed. Negotiations have advanced, but nothing till Indian interests are protected and Indian interests are secured, which is the background of understanding that while deals discussions have progressed, a deal is yet to be finalized and no one knows when that is likely to be sealed. But it's important to point out that while 14 other countries have been slapped with additional tariffs, India is looking to cement that deal, maybe in the 24, maybe in the next 48 hours. But that is the real differentiator to be able to understand how Donald Trump's administration is viewing India and some of the other countries in Asia in terms of trade through which they view the entire foreign policy mechanism. Let's play out Donald Trump on that.
Now we've made a deal with United Kingdom. We've made a deal with China. We've made a deal. We're close to making a deal with India. Others we met with, and we don't think we're going to be able to make a deal, so we just send them a letter.
All right, I'm now going to turn attention to a story that is something that's important, viewers, to really understand what's happening. Now, 2 days back, the Indian Deputy Army Chief made it absolutely clear that what happened during Operation Sindoor was Pakistan at the forefront, but China at the background, and led equally by Turkey as well. Now, China and Turkey were colluding with Pakistan to assist in intel, providing real-time details. China also provide ammunition. Remember, Pakistan was the laboratory of Chinese weapons and ammunition. What was Turkey doing? Turkey was providing drones. Turkey was providing assistance as well. Now, in the backdrop of that, suddenly you have both Pakistan and China going on back foot. Both of them have come out with statements saying they had nothing to do with this. China has in fact even went on to say that the India-China relationship is at a very advanced and at a level at which they feel it going forward. Suddenly they want to not take this any forward, at least in the public domain. As for Pakistan, Pakistan has come out with a statement where Asim Munir, the army chief, has actually said something to the effect factually incorrect. There is nothing about Pakistan that can be taken on face value, viewers. And I will only go by what my Indian Army Deputy Chief has said, that Pakistan and China have colluded along with Turkey when it comes to Operation Sindoor. Why is this important? Why is it that they are going around making these claims? Because for the international community to understand that if this is the collusion that they are doing right now, it has serious implications, not just for India, but for this entire region, which is why China and then Pakistan are being forced to come out with these half statements. They're not going to cut ice. India knows very well that there is a two-front war, and in fact it's now 2+1. Turkey and Turkey's interests and where they are aligned are also now very clear for India. India is well prepared. Our defense, our strategic calculus is completely focused on ensuring that whether it's a two-front war or a three-front war, we'll be prepared. As for Pakistan and China, this is optics, viewers. This is a reason why they are coming out with these statements. These optics are meant for the international community, and which is where they are really directed at. As for India, it's nothing but just filibuster. Staying with China, in fact, this is a story that many need to now know about, which is regarding a 38-year-old man in China who's gained attention on social media for being the food delivery worker with the highest education level. What has happened? He is now someone who's had an Oxford degree but failed to find a suitable job. He is holding multiple degrees from top universities, whether it's Tsinghua University, from where he completed his bachelor's in chemistry, and then of course a master's degree from Peking, which is the best university in China. He hasn't found a job. He's also got a PhD in biology from Nanyang University, then a degree from Oxford. Now, while he went around collecting degrees, what is it that he's not been able to get? A job. He's now a food delivery rider. Nothing wrong with that. But why is it that the famed Chinese economic model, which is being talked around the world about how this is the biggest economic engine in the world, is not able to provide highly educated people commensurate jobs? Is there something now wrong with the Chinese economic model? Is there something in terms of the fact that now Xi Jinping has not been able to solve the essential problem that the Chinese economy is facing, which is deflation, which is slowing economic growth? And this particular example of a PhD student now being forced to work as a food delivery rider is a wake-up call for all those in India and around the world who consider the Chinese economic model perfect. They can't get jobs, they don't have jobs right now, and that is the reason why slowing growth is becoming a bigger problem politically for Xi Jinping. All right, on that note, I'm going to slip into a quick break, come back with more on the other side. Stay with us. Indian family viewers that included two parents and their two young children was charred to death after a truck crashed into their vehicle in Dallas. They are from Hyderabad. They had gone to the US on a vacation, were meeting their friends and family, and were coming back from Atlanta to Dallas when this shocker of an incident took place. And Uma Sudhir, my colleague, has spoken to the family of these victims. Listen into what she has to say.
Extremely tragic incident of these four members of an Indian family who died because their car went up in flames. What we understand is that Sri Venkat and his wife Tejaswini, along with their two children, two school-going children, had gone on a holiday to the US, and they had gone to spend a week at Atlanta with some relatives. And when they were returning from Atlanta to Dallas in a car, we understand that their car met with a head-on collision with a mini truck in a place called Greene County. The truck is said to have been coming in the wrong direction, and the impact of the accident was such that the car went up in flames and there is no opportunity for anyone inside to escape the fire. So while people passing by have shot certain videos of the car going up in flames, no one could be saved from the car, and therefore the police there saying that they will be conducting DNA analysis of whatever bones or other materials that are left before handing over the mortal remains to the family. In Hyderabad, where the family is said to have resided at Kompally, which is called also Suchitra, in that area I spoke to the local inspector, and he said that while they have information about the accident and the place where they were residing, no one had come forward to seek any kind of a help from the local police as of now.
All right, viewers, Axiom formation is currently underway. It's been nearly 2 weeks since Shubhanshu Shukla has been at the International Space Station. As we wrap things up on this edition of India Global, we leave you with this latest video released by Axiom.
Grace crew, welcome aboard the International Space Station.
The best part about being a commander on a mission with all rookies is you get to watch the rookies go through it for the first time.
For me, as an engineer and a scientist, this is an ultimate scientific laboratory where we come to do science, to test our technologies of